Right, let's talk about finding your way at sea. Normally you'd think of a big satellite dish looking up at the sky, talking to the GPS. It's brilliant, simple, and it usually just works. But what happens when it doesn't? What if the signal gets blocked or jammed, or just decides to have a day off? Well, that's where this incredibly clever bit of kit comes in, the Inertial Navigation System, or INS. It's a completely self-contained box of tricks. It doesn't need to look at the stars. It doesn't need to listen for satellites, and it certainly doesn't need to ask for directions. It's the ultimate independent navigator, working entirely on its own. So, how does this box of genius do its job without any outside help? It's all about feeling the motion. Inside an INS, you'll find a couple of key components, accelerometers and gyroscopes. The accelerometers are tiny devices that measure, well, acceleration. They can tell how quickly the ship is speeding up, slowing down, or moving side to side. Think of it like being in a car. You feel yourself being pushed back into your seat when you accelerate. These sensors do exactly that, but with incredible precision. They track every single surge, sway, and heave of the vessel, building a picture of its movement through the water from one moment to the next. Of course, knowing you're moving forward isn't much good if you don't know which way forward is. That's the gyroscope's job. Gyroscopes are amazing things that are all about orientation. They measure the ship's rotation, its pitch, that's the bow going up and down, its roll, which is rocking side to side, and most importantly, its yaw, which is its heading or direction. By constantly monitoring which way the vessel is pointing, the gyroscopes provide the crucial directional information. It's like having a hyper-advanced, super-fast compass that also knows if you're leaning over. It's absolutely fundamental to making sense of the acceleration data. Now you take all that raw data from the accelerometers and the gyroscopes, and this is where the magic really happens. The system's brain, a powerful computer, gets to work. It performs some seriously complicated mathematics, a process called integration, to turn acceleration into velocity and then velocity into position. Starting from a known point, it continuously calculates, okay, we moved this fast, in that direction for this long, so now we must be here. It does this hundreds of times a second, constantly updating the ship's position, heading and speed, all without a single signal from the outside world. It's brilliant, really. So why is this so important on something called a DP2 vessel? Let me explain. DP stands for dynamic positioning. These are ships, often massive ones working on offshore oil rigs or wind farms, that need to stay in one exact spot without using anchors. They use a combination of thrusters and propellers, all controlled by a computer, to fight against wind, waves, and current. A DP2 vessel has extra backup systems, which means it's designed to be safer. If one part of the system fails, another one is ready to take over instantly. You can see where this is going, can't you? The INS is the perfect backup for the main positioning systems, which are usually GPS-based. Imagine you're a DP operator holding a massive vessel just meters away from a billion-pound oil rig. Suddenly, the GPS signal drops out. A solar flare, a tall structure blocking the signal, anything. Without a backup, the ship's computer would be blind. It wouldn't know it was drifting. But with an INS on board, the system doesn't panic. The INS seamlessly takes over, providing a steady stream of position data. It keeps the ship safely in place during that critical gap, until the main GPS signal comes back online. It's a lifesaver. It's not just for emergencies either. The INS is also a fantastic helper. GPS signals, while accurate over time, can sometimes be a bit noisy. They can jump around by a few centimeters, which might not sound like much, but when you're trying to hold a position with pinpoint accuracy, it can cause the thrusters to constantly fire and adjust. This burns fuel and wears out the machinery. The INS, with its super-fast updates, can smooth out that noisy GPS data. It acts like a filter, providing the DP computer with a much cleaner, more stable position, leading to smoother, more efficient station keeping. This makes the whole operation safer and more reliable. For a DP2 vessel, redundancy is everything. The rules say you need at least 2 independent position reference systems. By having an INS, you're not just ticking a box. You're adding a fundamentally different type of system. GPS relies on external signals, while the INS relies on internal sensors. This diversity is key. If a problem affects all the GPS receivers, like a regional signal outage, the INS is completely unaffected. It's this robust, independent nature that makes it an indispensable part of a modern DP2 vessel's safety setup. The INS is brilliant, but it's even better when it plays nicely with others. On a DP vessel, you'll never find just an INS working all on its own. Instead, it's part of a team of Position Reference Systems, or PRS for short. The most common teammate for an INS is, you guessed it, the Global Navigation Satellite System, or GNSS, which is the proper name for systems like GPS. This combination is fantastic. The GNSS provides highly accurate position information over the long term, but it can be a bit slow to update, and as we've said, can be noisy or disappear completely. This is where the INS shines in the partnership. The INS provides incredibly precise, high-frequency data about the ship's movements in the short term. It can tell the DP system about the tiniest nudge from a wave instantly. So, the computer takes the steady, long-term accuracy of the GNSS and blends it with the fast, detailed short-term data from the INS. The result is a stream of position information that is far more accurate, reliable, and smooth than either system could produce on its own. It's a perfect marriage of two different technologies, each one covering for the other's weaknesses. This process of blending data is called sensor fusion, and it's at the heart of modern navigation. The DP system's computer is constantly looking at all the information coming in from the GNSS, the INS, and maybe even other systems like laser or acoustic position sensors. It runs this data through complex algorithms, like a Kalman filter, to create a single optimal estimate of the ship's position and movement. If one sensor starts giving dodgy readings, the system can downweight its importance or ignore it completely, relying more heavily on the others. This makes the whole setup incredibly robust. Ultimately, this teamwork dramatically increases the integrity and availability of the positioning information. Integrity means you can trust the data, and availability means you always have it when you need it. By combining an INS with a GNSS, a DP2 vessel is protected against almost any single point of failure. If the GNSS signal is lost, the INS carries on. If the INS starts to drift, more on that in a moment, the GNSS signal corrects it. This creates a safety net that allows these huge vessels to perform delicate operations close to structures with a very high degree of confidence. Like any brilliant genius, the INS is not without its little quirks and flaws. Let's start with its main weakness, something called drift. Because the INS calculates its position by constantly adding up tiny movements, any tiny, minuscule error in the sensor readings will also get added up. Over time, these tiny errors accumulate and grow, causing the calculated position to slowly drift away from the true position. A good maritime INS can keep this drift to a minimum, but it can't eliminate it completely. This is why an INS can't be used as a standalone system for long periods. It needs regular updates from an accurate source like GPS to correct this drift. Another thing to consider is calibration. To get that pinpoint accuracy, an INS needs to be perfectly calibrated. This isn't just a one-time thing. It needs regular checks and alignments to make sure its gyroscopes and accelerometers are giving true readings. This process can be complex and requires skilled technicians. Furthermore, these systems are not cheap. The high-precision components needed to keep drift as low as possible are incredibly sophisticated and expensive to manufacture. This high cost is one of the reasons they are typically found on specialized vessels like DP2 ships, where the cost is justified by the immense need for safety and reliability. However, the advantages are massive, and for DP operations, they far outweigh the drawbacks. The most significant feature is its complete independence from satellites. This makes it immune to GPS jamming or spoofing, which is a growing concern. It also provides incredibly high accuracy over short periods and delivers data at a very high update rate, often 100 times per second or more. This is crucial for the DP system to react instantly to forces like waves and wind gusts, giving it that super smooth performance. It's also brilliant at integrating with other sensors, forming the core of a modern fused navigation solution. In conclusion, while an inertial navigation system has its limitations, particularly drift and cost, its role on a DP2 vessel is absolutely vital. It cannot and should not be the only tool in the navigational toolbox. However, as a source of independent high-frequency position and motion data, it provides an essential layer of redundancy and safety. It acts as the ultimate backup during a GPS outage and works as a partner to smooth and enhance the data during normal operations. For the complex and high-stakes world of dynamic positioning, the INS is the quiet, reliable genius in the background that ensures everything stays safe, stable, and exactly where it needs to be.